So let's pick back up where we left off in lesson 2.7 yesterday. So lesson 2.7, we were working with these absolute value graphs, right?
Yes.
What shape is an absolute value graph? It's a V, right? And if we backtrack for a moment, let me backtrack for just a brief moment. That basic V, it starts at 0, 0, yes?
Yes.
And then up 1 over 1? Up 1 over 1, right? So that was our basic V. Now, okay, review. Go with me here. What happens when there's a minus 4 outside the absolute value? That's down 4, right? When the number is outside the absolute value, it goes up or down. And since it's minus, it was down. Okay? What about when the number is inside the absolute value? Okay, it's left or right. Opposite direction, the sign. So since it was a +2, we had to go left 2. So putting it together, when you have a number inside and a number outside, you go 2 directions, right? The +2 inside told me to go left 2. The +3 outside told me to go up 3. Okay. Now, skipping to this part. You are my one class that got to talk about stretches and compressions yesterday. When you have a number out front multiplying, a number that multiplying, remember, is either a stretch or a compression. 2/3. Multiplying by 2/3 was a compression. Remember, because it's a number less than 1. I'll go back to that chart again. And then, since there was no movements, basically we what? Start at 0, 0, and then I did a slope of 2/3. Rise 2, run 3, rise 2, run 3. Now, over on this side, I just say reflect it. Because it's really on this side, it becomes a slope of negative 2/3. What happened when we had a negative 2 out front? It's a stretch of 2, and that negative tells me to reflect it down. And so we ended up upside down with a slope of negative 2 here, and then this is the reflected side. Okay, so those are the pieces we talked about yesterday. The part we're going to move into today is putting it all together into equations. So, general form of an absolute value equation. Notice right here. Y equals A times absolute value of x minus h plus k. And what we're going to, the idea here is that we don't necessarily have to graph it to be able to tell what's going on. But a little bit of information here. You guys know A is going to be the what? Okay, we talked slope. Officially, what's the transformation? It's either a stretch or compression, right? We kind of treat it as slope. So A is the stretch or compression factor. Okay. What's this minus h going to do? It's going to move it where? Left or right. What's this plus k going to do? Up or down, depending on the number, right? So, what we talk about here, the vertex, we talked about vertex yesterday, right? That point of the V. That vertex is going to be represented by h, comma, k. Notice when we say hk, this says minus h, this is h, so it's opposite sign of h, and then keeping the k as is. Okay, it's also how far left or right you go. Axis of symmetry is still x equals h, which notice that's the first part of the vertex, and I pointed that out yesterday. So this right here is helpful to be familiar with. How we're going to use it. Let's look at problem 4 here. Without graphing, what are the vertex, axis of symmetry, and how is the parent function transformed? So is it translated? Is it stretched? Is it reflected? Those kind of things. So let's go through and identify the different pieces. Okay? What's this 3 doing? It's multiplying out front, so what's that going to do? It's going to be a vertical stretch, right? And why is it a stretch and not a compression? Because because it's more than 1. And remember, back in lesson 2.6, we had this information here, right? We had this chart at the beginning of 2.6, right here. If you're multiplying by something, it's stretch or compression. It tells you right here, if it's bigger than 1, it is a stretch. If it's less than 1, it's a compression. So, with that in mind, we're going to have a stretch of 3. What does minus 2 tell me to do? X minus 2. Okay, when it's inside absolute value, left or right, opposite of the sign, so that's right 2. What's that plus 4 going to tell me to do? When it's outside, you go up or down, so up 4. Now, we were asked for 3 things. Let's start with the vertex. I heard 2, 4. Do you guys agree? Yeah. I'm hearing negative 2, 4.
No, because 2 goes to the right positive. Yeah.
Okay, so this is where what I tend to do here is I tend to think about which way is this going to move me. X minus 2 is going to move me right 2. Plus 4 is going to move me up 4. And so that gives me a vertex, right 2, up 4, 2, 4. Also, though, what did it say in the directions? The vertex is located at HK. Now, when we say HK, this is X minus H in the original thing. So it's always the opposite sign of what's in the absolute value. So it becomes positive 2. And then the K value, you keep the sign. Okay. It asked me for axis of symmetry. Those of you that were here yesterday, I kept saying the same thing all day. The axis of symmetry is always what? The X value. What's my X value here? 2. So my axis of symmetry, X equals 2. If you look up in the directions above, what did it say? Axis of symmetry is X equals H. Did I use my H value? I did. Now, how is the parent function transformed? Okay, so you've got several things to say there, yes? There was a stretch by a vertical stretch by a factor of 3, translated right 2 and up 4. Writing all of that down is your key. So I'm going to say vertically stretched by a factor of 3, translated, what did we say? Right 2 and up 4 units. Questions on that one? After you get it written down, that is. Okay, ready for B? Try to make sure people had time to write stuff down. Okay, what are the pieces we see on B? Identify something happening here. Okay, because there is a 2 out front, 2 is bigger than 1, that's going to be a stretch. Okay, vertical stretch by a factor of 2. What else? Minus 1. When it's in the absolute value or in the parentheses with X, it's left or right, opposite the sign. So -1 tells me to go right 1. What else do you see? The -3, the number added or subtracted outside is up or down, direction of the sign, so that's going to be down 3. There's one thing we haven't addressed here. I don't know if you guys caught it or not, but when I said stretch, I said stretch by a factor of 2. I did not say stretch by a factor of -2. What's that negative going to do? Reflect it, yes? Remember, a negative out in front of everything is a reflection across the x-axis. So this is also going to reflect across the x-axis. So those are the 4 pieces. There's 4 this time. We'll write them down. But I also need to talk about the vertex and axis. Okay. Based on the fact that we said right 1, down 3, what vertex does that give me? Okay, so right 1 is going to be a +1, down 3, -3. Do you see how that agrees with HK? It's opposite this sign right here, and it's using this whole number right here. If my vertex is 1, -3, what's my axis of symmetry? Okay, it's the first value, the x value, so x equals 1. And then it's writing down all the pieces we already said. Did you get it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we had a stretch of 2, a reflection across the x-axis, translated right 1, down 3. So, write it all down. Vertically stretched by a factor of 2. Please do not tell me it's vertically stretched by a factor of -2. That is something totally different, okay? So vertically stretched by a factor of 2, reflected across the x-axis, translated, where did we say we were going? Right 1 unit and down 3 units. You've got to be able to put it into words, guys. Okay. There is one more page on these notes. So flip to the back side when ready. We're going to kind of reverse things. They're going to give us the graph. We're going to write the equation. Instead of them giving us the equation, we graph it. We're going to do the opposite. You guys have what you need from here? Now, notice, as a reminder, that a basic equation is up the top right. So that is, when it says what is the equation of the absolute value function based on the given graph, we're trying to fill in that equation. So I need to know an A value, I need to know an H value, and I need to know a K value. My technique is let's gather some information. Some of you will just whiz right to it. You've already written your equation. Awesome. For the rest of us, let's gather some necessary information. To me, necessary is the vertex. Can you identify the vertex? What is my vertex here? -1, 4? Because what did my graph do? It went left 1 and up 4. Okay. Think, what else is it that we need to know? Okay. Well, do we have to talk about the axis of symmetry here? You can, but we have to know the vertex, like how far left or right and up or down we go. What else do we have to know to write an equation? Yeah, we're going to have to talk slope. We have to know that A value. Okay? So, any thoughts on slope here? What do you think, Jace?
It's going to be a negative graph.
Okay, so this A value is going to have to be negative because my graph is upside down. And here's my thought is always use the right branch because if I do the right branch here, I'm going to have a negative slope, yes? Okay. So what are we doing? If there's a dot there and a dot there, we're going where? Down 1 and over 3? It's supposed to be a 3, I promise. Okay. So down 1, right 3. And we did that by using our favorite slope phrase of rise over run. And so what is that negative 1/3? That's going to go in for A. What were my H and K? H and K was the vertex, right? The negative 1 and the 4. Okay, you ready to write the equation? We're filling in the form y equals A times absolute value x minus h plus k. That's the form I want filled in. Here's my help. Y equals. Help, isn't it?
No.
No? Okay. Okay, what's first?
Slope.
Negative 1/3, because that is my slope. And even if you came up with a slope of 1/3, you know you need to tag a negative on it, because our v is upside down. Okay? X minus h goes in the absolute value. So x minus what? Officially, my h is negative 1. So there's a couple of ways we can think about this. Okay, if I just wrote x minus negative 1, what does that turn around to be? X plus 1. And mine writes x plus positive 1. And you can go straight to x plus 1, but does that make sense? Because an x plus 1 tells you to go where on the graph? It tells you move your graph left 1. And is that what happened? Yeah. And then at the end we need a plus k. What's my k value? Plus 4. Here's what I encourage you to do when you get done. Sit back and look at it for a moment. Does it make sense? There's a negative. Okay? Yeah, my v's upside down. That makes sense. X plus 1 and plus 4 would tell me to go left 1, up 4. Is that what I did up here? Yes, my vertex went left 1, up 4. Those are the kind of pieces I would tell you to look for. Does that make sense? It's putting all the pieces you know together. I don't know. It's kind of hard to an extent, but yet it's not as bad as you think. And I know some of you will write down a lot less information than what I wrote down, because some of you will just go straight for the answer. I get it. But I'm trying to make sure everyone's with me, so. Okay. What do you see happening with graph B? Where does this graph go? It goes right 2 and down 1. I'm just writing that off to the side here so I remember. If my graph goes right 2, down 1, what's that make my vertex? 2, negative 1. 2, negative 1 are also going to be my H and K. Okay, let's talk slope here. Thoughts on slope? 1 over 4. Now, this one's kind of backwards because the dots are on the left side, aren't they? But I'm going to tell you to do the slope on the right side, or at least pay attention to that sign, because what kind of slope do I need here? We need a positive slope here. Hello? Okay. I have not yet. I will check when I make them. Okay. Thank you much. Okay. Bye. Okay, slope. So what I was saying, the dots are on the left side, but I'm always going to tell you to use the right branch for the sign. So because this is a right side up V, I know this is going to be a positive slope. I don't know. We can still use these, can't we? What's my rise? It's a rise of 1 and a run of 4. Key is I need to be over here, so it's positive. So we have a slope of 1/4. Again, that's rise over run. So what is that 1/4? That is my A value. Okay, friendly reminder, it's y equals A times absolute value of x minus h plus k. Okay. Jake doesn't think it's helpful, but it's what I'm doing. Y equals, there's my help. 1/4, because that is it's my slope. It's also, these graphs are compressed, right? What's going in my absolute value? X to X what? Okay, so because you go right to, you have to reverse the sign. Or think about, this is X minus H. Since it's X minus H, it always starts off minus. In this case, it's just X minus 2. X minus 2. Last time it was X minus negative 1, which is what reversed it. So that's going to be the hardest part right there, is getting the correct sign. X minus 2 and minus 1. And this is where I say, sit back for a moment before you hit enter on Math Excel, before you move on to the next question on the test. Does that make sense? Minus 2 would have moved my graph right 2, minus 1 would have moved it down. Is that what happened? Yes. Okay, your homework to get working on is in Math Excel. Some of you already started, some of you have not. Lesson 2.7.